Yes, guys. Welcome to another episode of podcast, Stake Podcast, and I am privileged to have Pastor Walter, Mr. Walter.
Should I say amen?
So before we were actually recording this, we were actually talking that how should I introduce him, and then he said I should call him Mr. Walter Murandu, and I just wanted to let you guys, that he's my pastor at the church that I go to, Redemption Center, and he's a marriage counselor there. So I've went through his hands, and I believe I've brought you guys some good material. And I just want to welcome Pastor Walter.
Thank you very much, Shepherd, for welcoming me. I'm actually just thinking right now, you're mentioning it, to say that you went through my counseling course.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of credibility right there. To say, no, guys, this is the guy that taught me,
Sure.
and now I'm bringing him here. I think that's very interesting. I think it's not biased, right?
No, it is not, because I think even before, because remember, I think we had a very close relationship when I was still dosing with my current wife, or with my wife.
No, you have to say with your wife.
With my wife, yeah. English is a problem. So with my wife, so I remember the counseling that you used to have to have for the both of us, and the one thing that you actually taught us, which we need to go back to, because we kind of like slowed down on it, was having a book where you have meetings.
Oh.
Yes. So we actually got that from you. We actually did it, and I think when we got married, we were like, oh, okay, so what? and what we're noticing now, that those meetings are actually very much important. Because those meetings, at least when you're sitting down with your, because back then we were, what we use in the secular word, we say girlfriend and boyfriend.
Yeah.
Is we used to sit down and deal with it as if it's a business. This is business,
Amazing.
No emotions. So I've learned a lot from Pastor Walter, guys.
And that's the goal for those meetings.
Yeah.
When I tell people to do it, the people that actually go and do it, they see some amazing results, because people think naturally relationships can just happen. But if you actually look at your relationship as a business, to say no, every company, every institute, every organization, every organized setup has to have meetings, where people sit down with an agenda and they map out the plan of what they want to do for their tomorrow. And it's very critical, even in relationships. If you look at it like that, you realize that, no, let's sit down, let's talk about what are we really doing here. You actually start to put direction into your relationship, and it makes a difference between relationships that have direction and relationships that after 5 years, people are just still boyfriend and girlfriend. You're like, where are you guys going after 5 years? So those meetings are very critical. They literally probably solve a lot of problems and avoid problems for couples, especially when you are starting. As you go along the way, most of the conversations that you have in those meetings become natural. But as long as they are not yet natural, you definitely need those meetings. I'm happy to hear that you consider. No wonder why you are here. Still happily married.
Yeah, definitely. I actually learned a lot from that as well. I think maybe just for our listeners, why we can just start from there, just moving forward.
Yeah.
Why would you say that it's important for people to take those meetings first of all, and also seeing a relationship as a business? Because when I heard that from you for the first time, I was like, okay, yeah, this is very new. So why should people take relationship as a business, and those like maybe just go to dive a little bit more on those? Yeah.
Cool. We can actually go there. That's a very good question. I don't know where I caught the wisdom from. But with my wife, when we started, because I had been in a relationship in the past and a lot of things had happened, and learning from experience, I realized that no, man, you need to be very intentional if you are to succeed in anything in life, So anything that you are not intentional about, you hardly can, you lack direction, and you won't even know when you get to where you wanted to go, So because of, I think, probably my past experiences, I really wanted direction, and I really wanted to be in control of how things should go. When I got into a relationship with my wife, some years ago, I think
it's been a time, yes, for a
yeah,
long time, yeah.
That's 2013, June. Yeah, that's a long time ago. So that's 9 years ago. So when I got into a relationship with her, I sat down and thought to say, no, I need to be in control of the future that I want to build with this person. And the best platform to do that is to have a platform where we sit and we discuss together, instead of assuming, sit and discuss and agree on actionable plans, agree on things that we need to work on, And when we did that, I think I started seeing a change in my relationship with her. When you look at me and my wife, we opposites, literally in everything. It had to take a lot of intentionality to bring each other into our worlds, to say, look, this is me, this is, So in those meetings we used to talk, they were very raw. So when we said, I remember the first agenda, we were sitting in Steers, Cape Town.
Sure.
We sat there, I think we spent about 70 rand that date.
Okay.
And I had my notebook. She was white, and my wife looked at me. She was my girlfriend at that time. She looks at me. She's like, okay. And then, what are we talking about here? Sure. What are you writing? So we sat, and I pitched the vision to her to say, look, I want us to document our journey. Our success, our plans, our failures, our weaknesses, our strengths, so that we learn and not forget tomorrow where we have come from. When we sit down today and we look into that book, some of the things we laugh. We're like, oh, wow. Do you remember that we were still saying our goal for next month is to save 300 rand?
Oh,
that was a goal at that time, And when we look at it, we're like, 300 rand. I mean, it's amazing when you see where the Lord has taken you from and how you can become, something beautiful when you are intentional about it. So with those meetings, literally the main goal is to say, bring yourself and your partner into one place and discuss, objectively, not, when you have those conversations, you are walking or you are watching a movie and all of a sudden you are discussing things that, shift your relationship. So the foundations of a relationship, you can't be discussing some things in a movie setting, or in a taxi, or you're in an Uber. Now all of a sudden you are talking about your 3-year plan to say, okay, so when we're getting married, this is what we need to do. When we get married, this is how we're going to do things. It's not how we do things. Yeah. That system doesn't work at all. So you realize that as a couple, we decided, I had to convince my wife in this, and then she bought into it. She was like, okay, let's see how it flows, And I think it's one quality that I love about her, that she could trust me with some crazy ideas that I would come up with. Yeah. And we sat down in our first meeting. We decided to say, okay, when do we want to get married? I think I like you, and I would like to see this going far. When do you think we would like to get married? We set some goals. We set some milestones in the process. When do you think would be the best comfortable time for us to do family introductions? When can we do lobola? When do you think, and she was very, engaging in those stories. And what she liked about it was the sense of direction that was coming from that. And it also gave a, assurance to say, at least I'm in a relationship with someone who is trying to go somewhere with me. Most girls get caught up in a place where they're not sure if this guy, is thinking long term with them or not, or the guy just want to be happy, with them. So that was the story. And in those meetings, we used them mainly on the communication side. When you meet a new person, when you start in a new relationship, there is that part where, I think my pastor always calls it the excitosis phase, where you are just too excited about everything about this person. Yeah. They come, they see you today, their hair is not combed, you are excited, Somewhere
it looks nice.
Exactly, and So because of that, we literally sat down and we said, no, for this relationship to mature, we have to start discussing things that are uncomfortable.
Sure.
And we would sit down and would be like, okay, so we called them monthly business meetings.
Yeah.
So we would sit down at the end of the month, we're like, okay, cool, so what are the good things that I have done this month? Where can you tick? Did I do anything that was exciting? Are you happy in the relationship? There's a golden question that, when you ask your partner in a relationship, you usually get a good feeling of what's going on in their mind. Because sometimes you might be burning with love, yet they are not. So you ask them, on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you with this relationship?
Sure.
And if they are honest enough, they will let you know, no, you know what, I'm somewhere around 4, I'm somewhere around 3. When you get that answer, it's not an opportunity for you to be like, you see, with everything that I've been doing for you.
I just bought you something.
With everything that I've been doing for you,
Yeah,
you're telling me I wanted to. No, it's
Yeah.
not the opportunity to do that. The reason for those meetings is for you to build what you have together. So your question should be, instead of saying, with everything that I'm doing, all this effort, you are not seeing it, you'd rather say, well, I get it. 3 out of 5, not bad. At least it shows that I'm present in the relationship,
Yeah.
So what can I do to get to 5? That's an important question. What can I do to get you to 5? To a point where you are like, you know what, 5 out of 5, I'm happy. It's possible for someone that you are in a relationship to be happy 5 out of 5. When they look at the relationship, they're like, well, I don't think there's anything that we need to work on. I don't think, everything that you are doing is, I've been getting that compliment from my wife for a very long time.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
nice.
is there anything that I need to improve? Sometimes I have to come up with sneaky words and try to catch her, to trap her in a word so that I see if she's really, because it's been for a long time. She's just saying, yeah, I'm happy. I'm super happy. I wouldn't change a thing. I'm like, okay, is there anything else? Okay, can we do 6 out of 5? Is that possible? So meetings like that, you also get an opportunity to discuss issues. Literally to say, you know what, this month I wasn't happy when I saw this happening, and when you did this, I felt like this, and this is how it affected me. I'm not sure what you were thinking, or I'm not sure how you were seeing things when you did this or when this happened. Let's discuss it. And you literally discuss it on a face-to-face kind of story, because most couples these days, they talk over WhatsApp. Send a WhatsApp message, hey, you said something that I'm not happy with. The person replies with a GIF, with an emoji, and you're like, how does the communication flow?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So that was the platform where communication became cemented in my relationship. And every couple that does that, communication becomes very easy. They mature very quickly in their relationship to an extent where they can discuss anything, in a very comfortable space where they know that, we can sit down. Well, if you do something wrong, I don't have to fight about it today. If it's not that urgent, or I can keep it and we can discuss it in our monthly meeting. And we talk about growth, we talk about mistakes, we encourage each other. We leave that meeting, everybody is happy, everybody knows direction. We set goals for the next month. Next month, let's go out, to this place, let's do this, let's do this. We used to schedule a lot of picnics.
Sure.
We went to a lot of picnics with my wife.
Sure.
The other day we were just passing by Sea Point, and I'm like, hey, remember that place that we went? And now we passed the park, and the park has changed. They've done so many nice things.
Sure.
And I remember we did a park here for 30 rand. We did a picnic there for the whole day. Not 30 rand it was 30 rand for the whole day.
Yeah.
The things that we just bought fruits, she baked muffins, and that was it. And even to get there was an interesting story. But with all of those things, it's things that were not just coming from, say, being spontaneous. We were intentional to say, no, we need to go out at least every weekend. Let's meet on Saturday, let's go, let's do this. And that really helped us. And every relationship, I think that every couple that has the courage to actually just sit down and discuss the relationship and not live in assumptions or think that this person is seeing or understands or feels or knows where I want to go with this thing, it's different. So it's very important for every couple to intentionally sit down and discuss the business of the relationship. Not to discuss about anything else, about the movies, about, discuss the relationship. You're discussing the two of you and how you are interacting with each other and where you think you are going with each other. I think that's very critical. If people can do that, you can easily pick up that this person you're trying to build a future with doesn't see any future with you. Any guy that is not serious with you, the moment you start bringing up something like that, you will start to see him drawing back.
Resistance,
because you're bringing him into a zone that he doesn't want, but he just wants to enjoy, your company. He's looting, exactly what Pastor was teaching. In the afternoon, to say the guy is just showing you, and that's all for free, and that's what he wants. But if you bring a person into that environment where you intentionally are discussing the business of this relationship, you realize that, well, are you in the same place together? Are you going in the same direction, or are you not? And also the mentality, when you think of a business, every business has to make profit.
Sure.
Many people are in relationships where they are always making a loss every single day. And loss, you're not talking about money. In a relationship, I watched Tinder Swindler recently.
Oh, okay.
It's an interesting one. It's a very interesting one.
A businessman who's always winning.
Exactly. It is relationships. So when you look at it, it's not only just on the financial side of things when you look at it, but loss in a relationship manifests in your emotions, your feelings that you're investing, the time that you are investing in this person. I mean, if you're in a relationship with a person who is playing with you for 2 years, how much worth is your 2 years, of time with a person? You realize that no, that's a big loss that you can't afford. There's nobody who should afford even to spend a month with a person who is not serious with them in a relationship, because it's just too much. This is you. This is your life. So when you literally look at your business like that, as a relationship, the profit that you see in relationship is growth in relationship, in connectivity, in maturity in the relationship, where you realize that you're no longer fighting. You have fixed all the problems. You're not having any issues to fight about. You have clear direction, clear sense of purpose, go in the same direction, and everybody is happy. You can actually have a fulfilling relationship as you walk towards marriage. And even in marriage, you continue the same relationships, the same discussions, the same meetings. You literally realize that you can have a fulfilling marriage that literally has no hassles, because you're being intentional about reducing, risks and reducing losses in your love relationship, and everything becomes perfect.
Yeah, I think I like that a lot. What it taught me was, I remember when you said that we should write that, and if, let's say, for example, like you were saying now, if there's something that your girlfriend or my girlfriend at the time did, which was wrong. So what I've learned a lot from that approach is it helped me to be patient with her at the time, because you're still getting to know each other, and there's weird stuff that they'll be doing which in your world it doesn't make sense, and vice versa.
Yes.
So that helped me to be so patient. So because they would do something which I'm like, okay, I don't understand this, and I'm like, okay, I have a meeting where I'm gonna be addressing, and I like how the setup, because you bring it up and so this is what you did. You were chewing meat like this. I don't like when you eat like this. It makes me feel like this.
Exactly.
And it's that acknowledgement of how someone feels. Because some of the things you realize, okay, these are tedious things, but the avoiding of conflict is very much important, because what's it tedious to you is not tedious to me.
It's not.
Yeah, so I actually love that approach, because it allows us to be forbearing with each other,
Exactly.
and actually talk things through when we're having our meetings. So I really love that approach. It's really amazing.
I love what you're saying to say avoiding conflict, because you see, in relationships, most of the times, chances are, I'm yet to meet a couple who are exactly the same in everything they do. I've seen lawyers. Most lawyers don't want to marry lawyers. I have seen doctors don't want to marry doctors. I've seen people don't want to marry somebody who you find it very hard to be attracted to somebody who is exactly like you. Almost every relationship, even if you look around you, you literally see that you see people that are completely different. Those are people that are attracted to each other, and they are coming together. So when you look at this, you realize that you're coming from different worlds, and to start with, you are a male, you're a female, you're a man and a woman, and you're coming together. That's a difference already on its own.
Exactly. Yeah.
So coming into one circle, and you want to be in this one circle, you will realize that somewhere, somehow, you will not agree on everything.
Yeah.
And those meetings are very beautiful for discussing such things. To say, bring your reasons, bring your reasoning. Let me understand how you feel about this. What do you think? Okay, what's making you think like this? Why are you feeling so strong about this? And you will realize that probably exactly what you're saying, to say something that is very small, trivial to me, is not the same for you. It's different to you. It's a big thing, but for me, I'm like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe I recently was talking to a couple, and the guy made a joke that didn't really sit in well with the lady, and
it's always guys.
Well, I won't agree with you on that one, but we'll allow it for now.
Sure.
So you look at it. He said a joke, and they're just starting in the relationship, and he said a joke, and the joke wasn't funny too. And then now all of a sudden he sees the face has changed.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a joke. And then she's like, how do you joke with that? How do you joke like that?
How is that a joke? Yeah.
How is that a joke? And the guy, all of a sudden, he sees that the laughter environment has disappeared, evaporated. It's no longer there, and there's a different face that's sitting with him here, And how do you navigate something like that? So when you look at it, you realize that literally that environment is a very powerful environment where you bring each other, your worlds together, and you can literally mature to a place where you can see things from the eyes of your partner. I've grown so much in my relationship with my wife that I can look at the weather today and I know that my wife needs to wear something like this. I can look at her after work and I know how her day was. I think even with the previous job, that she recently changed her work.
Yeah.
And her previous job, she had a manager who was, I'm looking for a word that I can use, but used to give her trouble.
Okay.
And she also had a colleague, who used to give her trouble.
Oh, Lord.
So I would look at her, at the end of the day, she's done working, especially during the lockdown days, and all of that. We were working from home, both of us. Even now, we work from home, both of us. So we are there in each other's space.
Sure.
Sometimes we work in the lounge together. And you can see that this conversation, she's talking to her manager. This one, she's talking to her colleague.
Yeah.
And I could tell. And I got to a point where I could see things from her eyes to the extent that I would know that, no, today I think it's her manager who was giving her issues. Today it's her colleague that was giving her issues. And I would even know how to handle her in that situation, to get her out of that work, issues. And she just comes back home and just be a wife, and we enjoy our evening still.
Sure.
So literally you realize that those meetings are very important because they help you to start seeing things from the eyes of your partner, which is very important, because if you're still seeing things differently, that's where most of the times people always have arguments. And your relationship will always have arguments as long as you don't see things, from the same perspective. and you will always see things differently. But as a couple, you have to always try and say, okay, this is, because sometimes, picture it this way. Your partner is in the mountain, on top of a mountain, and you are at the bottom. Right. Definitely what you are seeing is different, but you are looking at the same picture.
Sure.
If you are looking at each other, the one is at the top, the other is at the bottom. You are looking at each other, but what you are looking at, if we tell you to write an essay, about what you are seeing, you will realize that the two stories, they will literally go like they are opposite. You'll be like, what? With these two people looking at the same thing, were they in the same place? Yes, they were in the same place, but it's just that they were looking at things from different perspectives. Right. So maturity in a relationship is literally being able to see things from the eyes of your partner. And when you do that, you will realize that before you do something, you're like, well, how will my partner, how will my wife, think about this?
Yeah.
How does she feel, when I do this? And when you can articulate that, I promise you, your marriage, your relationship will be amazing. But when you can't, then that's where you always realize that you're always having a problem. She's always having an issue. You're having an issue with her because you are failing to connect on that level. But if you can bring your words together, and those meetings are very critical to discuss such business and bring your words together in a very neutral environment. Most couples live these subjects that are not so exciting to talk about. Let's say, for instance, I recently had a couple where the lady didn't know how to talk to a guy because the guy, is not using roll-on. So when they are together, the perfume is not there.
It's not pleasing,
it's not working, and she didn't know how to bring it, and the breath.
And there was no platform to actually bring it up,
You get it? Yeah. So you find yourself in such a situation, and now imagine this guy is going to work, and, or he's just coming from work, and like, your armpits are smelling, You're just telling him that you just made after work. I mean, how is he going to take it? How is he going to respond? Before you notice it, and that's not your intention. You want to address it. Probably the audio is really, really getting you off, but you need a platform where you can easily raise issues. And when we go for these meetings, it's our surgery meeting. We literally get there, we open it up, we take out the part that's not good, we put it out, we saw things, make sure that we put what we want in there, and we close it up. And when we leave there, everybody's happy and feeling good. And that's the platform to do that. So when I advised her to do that, she encouraged the guy, and then they started those meetings, and then she brought it up, to say, well, look, I think we can do better with the cologne that you're using. I don't think it's really working. I suggest we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The guy looked at it, he was like, yeah, I think I actually needed help with that. And the guy it was easy for him.
It's easy to receive,
You get it, because it's in that environment.
Exactly.
But if she had just at home, they are watching a movie, or at home, they just met, the guy gives her a hug, it's like,
and he wants to kiss her.
And it's like, no, let me get you, let me get you holes so that you.
Let me get you a drink first.
And you can't live like that for long. Most people find it very difficult to bring up issues and to say, how do I communicate? Now I'm saying, because when you see, when people start a relationship, what you see is what has attracted you to this person. When you look at a person, you're like, oh my goodness, this girl is beautiful. I like her. You greet her, hi, and she's excited. And, everything that you're seeing is good, and that's it. That's all you have seen, and you have made a decision to say, you know what, let me try this relationship with this person. First week, you're still seeing all the good things. Third week, first month, second month, you might go until month number 3, you're still seeing only, and in that place, it's not that you're not seeing the not so good things, the weaknesses and all of that. You are seeing them, but you are ignoring them. They are being overcrowded with these good things. Like the first time you had PlayStation, it was your everything. Just the same for ladies as well. The first time you have, maybe you've just changed your wardrobe. Everything is looking amazing.
Yeah.
Or you have your first iPhone. It's amazing. You're enjoying it,
Yeah.
right? But then as you go along, your eyes start to open up to other things that PlayStation can't do, And that's the same thing with relationships as well. You start realizing that, no, your car, let's say for instance it was a car, you bought a car, you are super excited.
Yeah.
Which car did you buy? A Bentley. You bought a Bentley, super excited, and all of that. And then, after month number 3, you're still learning all the good things.
Yeah, definitely.
And the person is happy to show you the good things.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to show the
good things, yeah.
You get it. So as you go along in the relationship, you get to a point where your eyes start to open to
the weaknesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you start seeing those things, you now need to start having very good conversations. It's no longer, I love you, you're the sweetest, and you now need to also talk to say, I think we need to do something about your breath.
Yeah.
I think we need to do something about your dressing. I think we need to do something about, but how you bring those things should be brought up in a very,
it's a safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a very safe space. There's a way that you can bring up things. I think one of the mistakes that usually women make, especially in relationships, one of the mistakes that women make in relationships is trying to change their
spouses.
Yeah. Because they have seen the good things, and that's all that they got the person excited.
Yeah.
And then now, you in the relationship, 3 months down the line, the good things probably no longer really excite you that much because you now know them, and now you are being exposed to the other side that you had not really seen. Or probably this person was putting a good face, to you because they wanted to get you. Everybody does that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
everybody sells the right side first.
Sure.
Everybody shows you their best side. Everybody will show you, even when you're going for your first few dates, the lady, she's dressing up in her best, and she, and then later on, that's when you will start seeing her, let's say you rock up at her place early in the morning, then you realize, the makeup is not always on.
It's not always on, yeah.
So you realize that as you go in the relationship with time, you start to be aware of other things, and those things you can no longer ignore them, because the excitosis of the good things has now faded. Not necessarily to say faded, but you now know it. You now know those things, and now the other things are now coming up, right? So relationships that stay long and stay very excited is a person who chooses to continually see the good things in the person that they are with, number one. And number two, who knows how to address the weaknesses when they start coming up, right? So when weaknesses start coming up and you start complaining, most ladies usually go into a complaining mode to say, no, change this. You can't be dressing like this. You can't be speaking to me like this. You can't be doing this. You can't, change this, change this. Don't do this. Do this, don't do this. You can't talk to that person. You can't do. Before you notice that the guy feels like he's being controlled, and the moment he feels like he's being controlled, or vice versa as well, the lady feels like, no, he wants to control me. He's telling me I can't talk to this person. I can't do. But when you found me, I was talking to all these people. You liked me like this. Now all of a sudden you don't.
It's my friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, you realize that most relationships usually last up to 3 months. They are so super excited. The next 3 months become rocky, and then after that they fade away, and then they break up because they can't deal with the weaknesses that they are seeing, failing to understand that everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has a side that they are working on. Everybody has to juggle between their beauty and the side that's not so beautiful.
So beautiful,
and with that, everybody has to. You have to know how to discuss weaknesses, and you have to know how to discuss growth areas. Things that a person is still working on. Let's say maybe it's an attitude after the person, you've done something wrong, the attitude that comes after that. You start noticing those things, but how do you work it out to a way that, to a place where this doesn't become a stumbling block in your relationship. It's very important. So you realize that those meetings really become central in addressing the things that you will start coming up. So when you meet couples, usually, you start in a relationship, the first 2-3 months, it's like honeymoon. People are enjoying it, and there is no problems. You ask them, "Are you guys happy?" We are happy. How are things going? We wish we could get married tomorrow. That is it. But then a little bit longer, then you start to hear issues. No, he's not patient with me. Well, he's not sensitive. She's not like this. I thought she was like this. I thought she did And now the issues start to come up. It's not that these things were not there. They were there, but they just need you.
Overshadowed,
Exactly. And in that time, you were having an opportunity to mature your relationship to a point where you can deal with these things. Because if you fail to deal with these things when they start coming up, that's the end of the relationship. No wonder why many relationships don't make it in their first year. Because when these things start to come up, people think that my way out is to leave and to quit this relationship, forgetting that the next person that you will go through the same cycle. So before you notice it, after 5 years, you have gone through a cycle with 10 guys, and surely you should sit back and relax and know that there should be something that I'm missing here. I need some strong re-engineering to understand that no, everybody has a side that they are not really so great at, and that side needs to be worked on and become better. And those meetings are central to becoming better together.
I think I like that a lot. When you were just saying that, I was actually laughing with myself now. That does that. Let's say maybe if you get to a point that when you know this kind of information, right? So I'm just thinking of someone who's listening to this. I'm like, what? So this is why my relationships were not working, right? And this is totally something different off topic, right? Cool. So would that information debunk the idea of soulmate? To say that you can actually meet anyone, in a sense, like quote unquote anyone, and if you set up these principles, would you become soulmate? So I'm just throwing it out there. It's just a thought I was just thinking about when you were just saying that does it debunk soulmates, because everyone is just thinking that there's only that one person that is there for them. But with these principles that you've just said, I'm like, okay, so which means I can just make a relationship work anywhere I go.
You got it 100%. You got it 100%. I strongly believe you can be in a relationship with anyone and it can work.
Sure.
And it can work. Unless if you're in a relationship with the son of a devil, then that one is a different case, where you're dealing with an evil person. That person, but with many people, you should be able to make a relationship work. Especially, let's say, for instance, for Christians, you should be, if there's maturity, you should be able. You can literally love anybody. The story of soulmates. People want to. I think in my work as a marriage counselor, what I have really tried to do is to simplify things, to make sure that no, marriage is not complicated. Loving someone and sacrificing is not complicated as people think. Submission or respect. It's not. People don't understand all of these things. The same thing with soulmate. People don't understand what it is and what it means. You ask a person, okay, where is your soul? What's your soul? Can you touch it? Can you hold it? How does it have to ever met when you don't know where it is?
I see where you're going.
So when you look at it, you realize that we're using terms that we don't understand, and we want them to mean some things. There's nothing like a soulmate. What I tell people is very simple. Stop looking for things to be very spooky in a love relationship, or what you have seen in the movie. You're walking in the street and then boom, you cross eyes with this guy and then you lock eyes like this and then, before you notice it, you're on your honeymoon. No, it doesn't work like
happily that. Happily ever after.
The happily ever after is a true story.
Oh, come on.
But the soulmate story, to say, there's no one person that you have to meet and marry. There's no one person who, even looking at the biblical background of it, you realize that there's no one person that you have to meet and marry. God is interested in your marriage and in you finding a partner, and he supports you and he guides you in the process. But God doesn't choose for you. God has so many sons and so many daughters, and he allows you to choose whom you want to marry. So if God comes, and God doesn't make decisions for us, he gave us that free will. It's very central to us as the human creation. Even in the garden, he gave the free will, to say, well, choose what you will eat. In Deuteronomy, he's like, well, I've said before you life and death, choose. So everything with God, you realize that it's a choice. So there is nothing like God. When 3 years after you were born, God had to send a girl so that you marry that girl, or just when you were born, another person had to be born and you have to meet that person. No, it doesn't work like that. So there's nothing like a soulmate that you have to meet. Love is very simple. You will meet somebody that is in your environment. There's something called the law of recognition. I think there's a book by Dr. Mike Murdoch where he talks about the law of recognition. It's a very powerful book. But I think the same law is applicable for relationships. To say the person that you will meet, the law of recognition has to come into effect. You see,
maybe you just explain on
the law of recognition. Cool, perfect. Let me use you as an example. Can I?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Good. Your wife, where did you meet her?
We met at CPUT.
There we go. You met her at CPUT, right? Good. At CPUT, there was...
To be specific, SEO.
SEO.
Yes.
Perfect. Good. So what you notice is that you were in the same place at the same time, and you met her and you saw her. Probably you continued to see each other, and maybe it wasn't love at first sight, maybe it was love at first sight, but there's a point in time where you said, wait a minute, there's actually a wife material here.
Yeah, funny story. So because when I saw her, she was a junior. I think she was junior at CBT, and she came with Zandile. She was under the wing of Zandile.
All right.
So I actually took her in, and I was like, no, I'll mentor you, and I'll just tell you, do this, because I was just a senior as well. She was just entering. I was like, okay, get these companies, do this, do 1, 2, 3. And I remember all this time, she was just a junior. And only later on, when she I think she started coming to church now with us. So we're going to church together, and I was like, okay. And I think I was also dating at the time, and things just didn't work. And I was like, okay, let me just focus on Jesus. Then I was just doing that. And at some point, I think there was a time when I was looking for a job. I think I was looking for a job for the whole year. And that year we had the closing function at SEO.
Yes.
And that time I was like, okay, yeah. So when she tells me her side of the story, she says that I asked her, so you don't like makeup? So I at the time I didn't like women with makeup and nails. I just didn't like all that drama. So I was like, oh, okay, yes. So I think there was the time where my eyes opened. I was like, can't you? All this person was just here in front of me. And that's when everything led to another, and then just, and then
there we go. You see, so the law of recognition comes into effect to say there's a moment that you recognize, to say, there's this person here. You recognize the person.
Sure.
So you can literally be seeing everybody else, but as long as you don't see them as a potential for marriage and you do something about it, then it means you are not recognizing them. Right. So the law of recognition is very simple. It simply says you have to, for anything to happen in your life, you have to recognize it. Let's say, for instance, you're looking for a job, and you're online, you're looking around. As you're scrolling down, you have to recognize that, wait, this is a potential job that I can apply.
Yeah.
If you don't recognize it, what happens? You pass it.
Yeah.
You get it? That's literally what happens. So when you look at it, you realize that the law of recognition works to say, you will recognize that, no, this person is actually, and that person most of the times, That person is already in your environment. It could be your online environment. It could be your physical environment at work. I met my wife at work. It could be at work. It could be
Yeah.
it could be in college. It could be at church. It could be at the gym. It could be wherever that you go to physically. So you have to be in a particular place. And in that place, that's where you will meet a person. You know, the reason why you did not meet a wife, you did not marry a wife from Israel, is because there is nowhere in your environment, you know, anybody.
Or you find someone who's an Israelite here.
You get it?
Sure.
Right. So I'll give you a very interesting example.
Okay.
I know somebody who's very interested in marrying a white person.
Okay.
You know, I'm like, well, chances of you marrying a white person with the network that you have are very close to none.
Yeah.
So if you want to get married to a white person, what must you do? You must find yourself in communities where you find more white people.
Yeah.
Maybe relocate to UK,
Yeah.
you know, or relocate to Germany.
Definitely.
You've got every chance to, you get it. So it's literally just like that. So marriage is by choice. It's not, nobody designs it for you. You design your own story. So soulmate, there's nothing like a soulmate. You simply find somebody that you think they are cool. You try it out, you work it out together. You intentionally put in what you need to put in as effort to make it work. It works.
Yeah.
It works
Wow.
just like that.
Wow.
So if your wife had never come to Cape Town,
Yeah.
you would be married to somebody right now.
Definitely, yeah.
You would still marry
Definitely.
somebody. And the interesting thing about it is that you probably would still be happy in that marriage.
Yeah,
With
definitely.
that, maybe better, you know, or maybe less. Depending on how you manage it with that person, you would still marry. So everybody, you know, in wherever environment that they find themselves in, there is the thing of soulmates and all of that. It's just complicating your life. To say, are they my soulmate? How do you even know? Does your soul even know? Do you even know how to make a decision with your soul? How does it choose? Does it see? You know, before you notice it, you realize that you are in a world of confusion, and that's why you're thinking about these things that are spooky. Now, because you dream a guy, you think he's your soulmate because you dreamt him, and now you wake up in the morning, you met the guy, you realize the guy has got 2 girlfriends. What are you going to do?
You want to be the third one. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. And another thing, Pastor, see, we've just talked about something that establishes relationships, which is the business part, like having those meetings, right? So now, what are the mistakes that people do? I think that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about for today. Yes, so one of the mistakes that people do, whether it be boys and girls, so you can just choose which one you want to start with.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with ladies. I think ladies. I like ladies as a marriage counselor.
Okay.
To advise. Why? Because I have seen that ladies have an appetite for information and learning to do things better than guys.
Okay.
So even when a couple approaches me, if it's a lady who is coming, I'm like, yeah, ask your guy to contact me, you know, so that I can gauge and see how serious, you know, the guy is. And when the guy contacts me, then I know, you know, whatever problem that they have, it will be very easy to solve.
Sure.
You know, because they will be in it together. But most of the times I get ladies contacting me, hey, I need help with my relationship. These are my problems. I'm like, yeah, set up a meeting. We can talk. You know, you and your
husband, yeah.
And she's like, wow, yeah, I don't think he would wanna, you know. So most of the times you realize that guys hardly seek out to get help. Maybe it's in the
It's a
guy.
handful, yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with guys.
Yeah.
Pastor the other day was saying that a guy would rather get lost
than
with
go
directions
get a
than to
GPS.
ask, you know,
Exactly,
to say,
yeah.
no, I'm lost, guys, help me here. How do I go?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So the same with relationships and marriage. You realize that ladies usually quickly realize the need to learn and become better than guys. So I think let's start with ladies.
Okay.
Let's start with ladies. I think there are so many mistakes that can be customized into many different, you know, sects. You know, when you look at it, to say, well, mistakes that people make when they are starting a relationship, mistakes that they make in relating, mistakes that, there's so many. But I think I'll just categorize them probably to mistakes that are very critical in relationships. Let's say, for instance, a relationship has just started or a relationship is flowing. What mistakes do women normally make, in the relationships? I think one of the this one is very sad though. That's why I said I think I'll do the critical ones. The big ones.
I think we can do the critical ones.
I think I'll just do the big ones,
Yeah.
and then the small ones maybe when we have time next session or whatever, then we can talk about the small ones.
Yeah.
Right. This mistake, most women make it, and honestly so. When you look at a mistake, you realize that a mistake is a blunder in choice. It's not something that you do something you didn't intend it to, or let's say you do something, but you realize that when you have done it, it has costed you. And when you were doing it, you were not thinking that it would, so it's a genuine error, it's a genuine mistake. It could be negligence, it could be oversight, it could be whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a mistake. You didn't want to get this result, but you are stuck with this result because of what you have done in the past. So when you look at it, you realize that in a mistake, there is choice. It can't be a mistake if there is no choice. You have to have a potential to choose otherwise for it to be a mistake. To say, well, look, you went to the supermarket, you went to Woolies, you wanted to buy self-raising flour, and you bought wheat flour or a bread flour. Yeah, there we go. You buy pap instead of buying cake, self-raising, flour or a cake flour. You come home, you realize that I made a mistake, and now you are stuck with pap, instead of what you really wanted. So you realize that it's not what you wanted, but now you are stuck with it, and it has consequences. That's the unfortunate part of it. And one of the most this one is a little bit very sad though when you look at it. To say most ladies, when they get into a relationship, ladies do. Ladies don't really have commitment issues than guys. Okay. Ladies, they really get sold out. Love their guy. I love this guy. I was talking to a lady recently. She's like, you know what? I never thought I would date that guy because he's not really beautiful. But when I accepted his proposal, I gave myself into this relationship. Wow. I was like, this is the guy that I'm going to build the tomorrow with. Already she's seeing the tomorrow of marriage, the tomorrow of growing old. But in this guy, he wasn't seeing that. Yeah. So the sad part about it, I think one biggest mistake that ladies make in relationships is to assume that the relationship will end in marriage. That assumption is very deadly. Why? Because assuming that it will end in marriage, that's where you see that's where you see women doing things for a man, things that they are supposed to do when they are in marriage. They do them before marriage because they are thinking that this thing will end in marriage. Right. So it's not every grown up, you would understand that it's not every relationship that will result into marriage. Yeah. It's a journey. So when you meet a person and you start a relationship, you need to realize that they have not decided to marry you. They have decided that I think we can work this thing out. I think let's start it out. Let's see how it. But as you start walking that journey, as beloveds, there's a point where you as a lady and you as a guy decide to say, I think I want to marry this person. I remember when I got to that point where I was like, no, I want to marry my wife, and you get to that point, and before you get to that point, you realize that, well, everything is still, you still just, trying to understand, does this work with this person? Is this the right person? You're not even really sure if this is the person, when you started out with a person. So it's very important for ladies to realize that as long as you are in a relationship, this guy hasn't married you, there's still a chance. that it might not end in marriage.
Yeah.
And nobody in a relationship wants to talk about that. And because of that, people want to ignore it, because you're talking about us breaking up, to say, so there's a chance that we can break up. People don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But look around. Okay, not around. Look at yourself. You might probably have had another relationship in the past that failed. So you can't assume that this one will end in marriage, and you start behaving as if you are already in marriage. So when you really look around, you realize that no, man, not every relationship is ending in marriage. So that assumption, removing that assumption, it keeps you sober in what you do for this guy. It keeps you sober in what you are prepared, how far you are prepared to go. There are things that you should never give to a guy until
he has put a ring on it.
Thank you.
Come on.
And that assumption, to say that it will end in marriage is literally just assuming that is the reason why when there's a breakup, it seems like the lady is crushed than the guy. Why? Because the guy is sober. He knows that this thing might not, end in marriage. And the lady is sold out into this whole thing. And when the thing breaks up, the lady feels like suicidal thoughts start to come in. All of those other funny things start to come in. Depression, anger, hate. Before you notice it, you're calling every man trash. You're calling every man a dog. Why? Because of how hard it has hit you. But if you leave room to understand that, whilst we are still yet not married, the fact that you see that he hasn't walked with you on the aisle, and that's a good sign that you might not get there. You may or you might not get there. And because there's still that room, you should understand that this guy should not be your everything. He can be your everything when you are married, because you are now one. But before that, you can't live as if he is your everything, because he can dump you. When he dumps you, what happens? Your everything is gone. Your everything is gone. So you have to realize that as long as you are still in a relationship, there's still a chance that you might not. And that keeps you sober from looking out for things that you can't deal with in marriage, and trying to fix things that cannot be fixed. I've seen ladies that have been in a relationship where a guy has cheated 5 times. It's like, I understand men cheat. No, men don't cheat. It's not every man that is cheating. There are men that don't cheat at all, that have never cheated at all. That don't even understand that. So you can't be settling on a guy that is cheating you 5 times and still wanting marriage with that person. Marriage is not going to change him. He will continue doing those things even more. He has every reason to be hiding these things from you, because he hasn't gotten you yet. You haven't given your hand in marriage yet. And when you are married, it's more like, I don't want to use this word. No, I will not even use it. You're not stuck. You're not stuck when you're in marriage. But it's complicated to undo a marriage than a relationship. So when you think soberly, when you're still in a relationship, you realize that it's better, for you to maintain that, that objective sense somewhere there, to say, well, should this guy decide not to marry me, I shouldn't be crying to say he took my everything. I've heard girls crying to say he took my virginity. You only had one, and it's gone, and it's gone. There's nothing else you gave, because you gave him, exactly, So every lady, I think it's a very bad mistake, because falling in love is very important. It's beautiful and all of that. But it's not automatic that you will marry this guy. For you to get to marriage, there's a lot of things that have to come into play. The guy also has to see what he likes. The guy also has to make a decision to say, no, this is the person that I now want to marry. And when before he makes that decision, you are not yet a wife. So do not treat yourself as if he has already married you. And I think that is very important.
So that brings the conversation of cohabiting, right? But I think
That's an interesting one.
The last time I talked to you about cohabiting, you said that, okay, that's a very big topic. But I think when you were saying that, I just realized that, it seems like that's where cohabiting comes in, because already you think that getting into a relationship would just introduce you to them, what do you call this, the in-laws and everything. So,
I hear you. Well, I see you want to bring cohabitation into this chat. I like that topic because I think there's a lot to it. I think I told
we
you
could
that.
tackle it if you don't mind.
I told you that in my book, I literally have a topic. I think that has about 15 pages. Talking just about that. Just the cohabitation story. Analyzing it literally, and with a lot of research that I did from past researches that has been done. I think one of the researches that I used in that book was, I think, from 1950, and recent researches that I came across, that have been done around cohabitation. So I think it's rich, but let's make it the first discussion that we have when my book is out.
Yes, that would be great. That would be great. Yes.
So, but when you look at it, you realize that because you are assuming that this relationship will end in marriage, you end up doing things like that, and you are literally just shortchanging yourself, because you living with a person like you're married, but there's no marriage. You don't get the everything, because this guy can literally just pick up. The sad thing about it, I think this one I'll have to mention, and then I quickly leave this topic.
Okay.
The sad thing about it is that there's a study that was done to trying to understand the cohabitation thing, since it has started to increase in different countries, and they realized that out of the findings, they realized that women, when they are cohabiting, they are thinking that it's a step closer to marriage. But men, when they are cohabiting, it's simply a convenience. It's convenient for them.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So you realize that the lady is thinking we are closer to marriage, but the guy is like, no, it's convenient. I don't have to travel for sex. Sex is just right here.
Ooh.
And we don't have to pay 2 bills. She pays rent, I pay the car bill. And the guy is literally thinking about convenience. He's just thinking about that, while the lady is thinking that, no, cohabitation is a step closer to marriage. So that's why when it complicates many things, And on that topic, I think maybe for today we might talk about sex as well, which is a very interesting mistake that people make in relationships.
Sure.
So that's basically sex before marriage. To say that, well, look, it's a very interesting topic in today's world. In today's relationship. I think in the Christian circles, it's very simple. Let's keep it for
marriage.
There we go. Right. But people who don't keep it for marriage, usually there are a lot of hassles that they have to go through. When you look at it, as a lady, sex is different for a lady and a guy.
Okay.
It's completely different. For a lady, you can't just wake up and say, let me have sex with this guy. It hardly happens. There has to be an emotional connection, an emotional attachment. But for a guy, well, interesting.
So just wired differently.
Exactly. So when you look at it, you realize that sex does not cement your relationship. If you're in a relationship and you're having sex, it doesn't make your relationship stronger. It's not a sign of maturity in the relationship. And the unfortunate thing about it is that sex in our society actually is viewed on the lady's side. It's kind of viewed like maybe you are a little bit loose if you are having sex, And when a guy is considering marriage, he's like, no, But for a guy, it's viewed differently. So it's a mistake for a lady to be engaging in something like that when it causes problems for you. You know, even in my book that is coming, there's a topic that I talk a lot about this topic. You know, just showing the how big of a mistake it is, you know, for you to have sex before marriage. It's not a sign of commitment. It doesn't show maturity in the relationship. It just simply means that the two of you didn't have self-control. And if you couldn't control it today, probably in marriage it might be a difficult
Another
thing.
big problem, yeah.
You know, So that's the story. So that one is a very complicated one because you see, the moment you bring in sex into the picture, and it in a relationship, it overcrowds many other things. People stop seeing things objectively because you're establishing this emotional bond, and you know, and all of that. And the moment you introduce it in the relationship, you realize that now you notice that this guy is not the one that you would want to be with for life. Detaching yourself from this person is going to be very hard because you had introduced sex in the equation.
Yeah.
But if you had not, well, you might cry for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you know, a month. After that, you know, a year down the line, you've forgotten about the guy.
Yeah.
You know, you are now happy in your next relationship, you know. But if you had sex with this person, you even making that decision to leave this guy is going to be very complicated for you. It's not going to be very easy because of what you have given him. When you look at it, you realize that that's the most precious demonstration of intimacy that you could give to a person that you love, and that's sex. And now you have given it to this guy, and this guy is just treating it like it's nothing and doesn't value it, you know, and all of that. That you have given out yourself to this person. And when this person dumps you, it becomes like an ethical, it becomes like a very hard thing to get over. So it's a very big mistake for a lady to consider having sex in a relationship. Why? Because it complicates your story. That's where you see a guy asking a lady to say, well, let's have kids before marriage. You're like, you want kids, but you don't want to commit that you'll be with me for life. Why? Why should I give you permanent things on a temporary contract?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
You know, because kids are permanent. You know, I was talking to one of my friends recently. His wife gave birth, and he was like, you know, the experience when I looked at it, I came out with a different appreciation for my wife. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more. He was like, I don't wish any woman to go through the childbirth process alone. It's not easy. A beautiful thing can easily turn into a horror movie because you are going it alone. But with someone next to you, it's easy. So if you're having sex as a lady, I've seen many ladies, the moment now you get pregnant, the guy asks, you tell the guy, hey, I'm pregnant. Chances are the first thing he's going to ask, is it mine? You're like,
Yeah, because chances are they're going to ask that, yeah.
You'll be shocked. You'll be like, what? And then going 9 months down the line, it's still a series of shocks that you'll be seeing from this guy. You see, now he says, is this baby mine? And now you realize, when did you start having questions about, you know?
Because you know, it's just me and you, yeah.
It was just me and you. But the fact that you were sleeping before marriage, he always thinks that the morals are a little bit weak if we're doing this. That's why he's asking you this question. You know, now you realize that you shot yourself in the foot. And then you realize that he doesn't want the baby. He's asking you to abort. How do you do that? Before you notice it, you realize that you are the one who is carrying the pregnancy. This guy can continue working with, you know, there's not even a sign that he impregnated you on it. You know, so when you look at it, you realize that it's a losing battle for the lady. And God's wisdom that says that keep it for marriage was mainly to protect women, you know, in the process, because they bear most of the weight when it comes to, if not all of it. I mean, men maybe if you're married, the guy might only carry 2%. He doesn't even know how it is. The baby feels in the stomach. He has nothing. If he has a stomach, it means he's not exercising.
Yeah, it's just a big belly. Yeah.
So even himself, the guy doesn't even understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
To say how are bones forming in your stomach? A little human is breathing inside there. And
the cravings and
that process, you are the one who is going through it, not him. And you're going through it for someone who doesn't appreciate you. If they valued you and appreciated you, they would have taken you to the altar and commit to say, for life, I'm doing this thing with you. So as long as he hasn't decided to do that, don't give him permanent things. Don't give him things that you will regret for life. I recently met a girl, and she shared a very sad story that her mother doesn't like her that much because I remind her of my father, and she didn't, because the father dumped her in the time where she really needed him. So the mother looks at her, it's like, and now all of a sudden she is doing all of that. And when you look at it, you realize that it's literally a life that has been affected. But had you closed your legs to this guy, things would have been easy. Had you just said, what, if you really want, So when you look at it, you realize that sometimes a guy can say, if you love me, you should have sex with me. Have sex with me to show me that you love me. Sex is not a show of love.
it's picking you up.
So when you look at it, you realize that sex is not a show of love. It's not a show of love. You can't be having such a question and feel the burden of proving that you love. You should simply just respond to him to say, well, if you love me, marry me. Instead of you saying, let's have sex if you love me. If you love me, marry me. Then I know that you love me. But besides that, so that's a very big mistake that women make in relationships. And the moment you involve sex in it, you realize that most of the times with that game, women will always be on the disadvantage.
Yeah.
And it's a permanent mistake. Now this guy leaves you and you have a baby. Now, for you to get another guy again, it's your life has changed. You now have to be going to preschool to pick up your daughter, your baby, and your life is no longer the same anymore. So you can't be doing that. It's a very big mistake that I think no lady deserves to go through the consequences of it, and should be avoided at all cost.
And I mean, with that said, it also brings up a pandemic which is happening. I don't know if maybe it's in that. I can only talk about South Africa, which is having baby mamas and baby daddies. So that is also another situation.
That one is an international situation.
It's an international one.
There are a number of countries that are still,
battling with that.
Yeah. There are some countries that are a little bit left out from that pandemic of baby mamas and baby daddies, but the only thing is, I think the problem is, as South Africa, we're getting much of our cultural shift and cultural changes and trends from America. The USA is influencing a lot in our society, and what we accept and what we don't accept. So when you look at it, you realize that, well, in the USA, it's probably at the forefront of baby mamas and baby daddies. So that's where it's coming from. That's where we're simply adopting it. But many other African countries are not yet there. I think back in the days, in most African societies, the moment you get pregnant, you're supposed to go to that guy. He's your husband.
He's your husband,
It's over. There's no negotiations forward, and you're supposed to make the family work, and you start a family, and so there was no issues of a lady, being pregnant and having to raise a baby, on your own in a separate place, with the father. So it had to be, those homes where the father and the mother are present. And that scenario, it has so many ripple effects.
Yeah.
It has so many ripple effects when you look at it. I don't wish for anyone to raise a child on their own. And the only way to avoid that is to get married first.
Yeah.
If you are to divorce after marriage, well, at least you had done everything, to avoid, and it's not usually baby mama and baby daddy. Actually, it's not. It's a different case. It's my ex-husband.
Yeah. Just take turns.
It's a different reference. It's a different term. So baby mama, baby daddy, it's just people that were unmarried, had children. And it's not a conducive environment to raise a person. The best is where the father and the mother are in the same place.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should strive for that. Everybody should aim for that. You shouldn't want to go through it without the father of this child or the mother of this child. You shouldn't.
If you have time, we can go on the second mistakes that ladies do.
The other mistakes, what did we discuss?
So we just discussed. The first one was the ladies, they make the mistake of assuming that being in a relationship is going to end in marriage.
There we go. That was number one. And we talked about the sex mistake.
Okay.
Where ladies think that
sex is a cure.
It's a form of commitment. Yeah. It shows that. Right. So as a lady, actually, sex is not, giving sex is not what's going to get you married, but actually keeping it is what will get you married quicker.
I see, yeah.
If you give it, chances of you getting married quicker.
That's big, Pastor, that's big. Can you please say that again? You said that. So there might be some young girl out there.
Giving sex will not get you married, but keeping it will get you married quicker.
Yeah.
So let's say you're in a relationship, and of course this guy has got a pressure cooker, and for guys, I think for men, I think from the age of 16, erections are already rampant.
Yeah.
And the guy wants sex, wants a release. Right, so if you offer him that release channel, because that's what it is for most guys, especially when there is no marriage involved. You can't tell me that this guy really loves you so much that he just wants to have sex with you and not marry you. You're not seeing things correctly.
Yeah.
If there is the emotional part and he is involved fully and invested in it, he will marry you so that he can have sex with you.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, you realize that when you give the guy sex, then he relaxes because he's getting the reason why he should marry you. Then why should I pay for something that I can get for free? It's a logical question. I wouldn't do that.
For a guy, it's a very logical question. Yeah.
You get it? I wouldn't do that. If I can call you, you come to my place and we have sex, and why should I, and I get it without any commitment, no promise for life, nothing, and I'm not responsible for anything that happens after that. I don't have to worry, So when you look at it, you realize that no, actually keeping it is what will get you married quicker. And when you get married quicker, it's much better for couples that kept it for marriage than couples who had sex before marriage. I think my book would be very
I'm looking forward to the book.
I think I really took a lot of time to explain the benefits. I think sometimes I was even listing so many benefits with the studies of what has happened in the past, and real logic and reasoning to say, no, look, having this thing at this point, even couples that get married, there's a very interesting research that showed that couples that got married as virgins, they had more stability in their relationship. And virgins is not saying that they were virgin biologically, but they decided to be celibate in their relationship.
Oh, I see.
And not have sex, from whatever time, they had sex in their previous relationships, but when they started this relationship, they were like, no, we're not going to have sex. We're going to keep it for marriage. Those couples, they had very stable relationships, and they were less likely to divorce than couples who explored everything before. So you realize that having sex before marriage, you're literally shooting yourself in the foot, because what you want is marriage. You put sex now. When you get married, you now realize that now your marriage doesn't have strength to withstand what is coming, because you crowded your relationship with sex, where you were supposed, because the courtship phase is the phase where you are supposed to be learning this person you want to do life with. Right? And the life that you want to do with has sex in it in the future. That's what you are supposed to learn. You're supposed to learn this person before you do that. But now you are bringing the end game
in the beginning.
And then you spoil the learning process. When you get to marriage, you are not developed for it. And you realize that anything that happens in marriage throws you off. That's why you see couples divorcing 2 months later, 6 months later. And most couples that have sexual problems in marriage, it's mainly because of sexual activities that happened before marriage. So when you look at it, you realize that for a lady, it's really not a good idea at all in any angle of what you're looking at. Not even talking about the spiritual side of things. So if I want to go into the spiritual side, we can take a day.
Yeah, because as we're talking, I'm actually realizing there's actually a lot to actually talk about.
we haven't touched the spiritual side of it. To say, how does God look at it? What does God think about it? Cohabitation before marriage, sex before marriage. What does God think about it? God has a system and God is clear. There are things that we can say, we're not sure about this, but sex, God was clear. If you have sex before marriage, God wasn't happy with you. So you can't assume that today He's happy when you're having it before marriage. He's not happy, with you. And no matter how much you want to justify it, even in the Bible, they would say, well, if you find a person in adultery, they must be stoned to death. That's why you see the Pharisees bring the woman to Jesus Christ to say, no, the law says we must kill this person. That was the punishment of having sex before death, before marriage. So supposedly you're having sex and you are not married, your punishment was supposed to die by stoning in the past. And that's how God felt about it. But I know there are some people who go to church, love God, but are doing it. You have to go again and read your Bible, investigate it. Like what Pastor was saying today. To say, no, these things I'm telling you, but go and pray and investigate and see what you think about what God says. So I think the spiritual side of things, maybe we can have a session just for the spiritual side.
Yeah, definitely. I would love us to go
and explore and talk about angelic activities when you're having sex. To say, how does it, what's the outlook? Because we're talking about the spiritual stuff.
Definitely.
We're talking about the unseen stuff. To say, okay, what's happening? In that, what happens? Because you see,
even things like wet dreams, I would really love us to talk about that as well.
We definitely can. So it will be an interesting conversation.
Sure.
To talk about it.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay, Pastor. I don't know if you want us to continue, or did you finish the?
Well, I think we talked about probably the 3 most important that I think
the critical ones.
The other one I had mentioned it earlier to say, sometimes you find ladies trying to change a guy that they are within a relationship and they see it as controlling. Usually ladies are guilty of this, where they get into a relationship and they start seeing things that they are not really happy with and they start talking about them. So there's a way that you can bring things to the attention of the person and address things instead of complaining, because there is no guy who would make a decision to marry a lady that complains. The moment you are viewed as a complaining, murmuring woman, I can promise you the guy will not marry you. It will not happen. It will not happen. The Bible says that it is better to dwell in a desert than to dwell in a house with a murmuring, quarrelsome woman.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So you realize that trying to change your partner when you are bringing things that they need to change, stop doing, and all of that, you have to have. I love the discussion we had earlier to say no. You know what? Have a platform where you can sit, talk about this, so that you bring these things in a safe space than just throwing them out there. And because that is what literally destroys many relationships.
Yeah.
So the moment a guy sees you as if you're trying to control him, he runs away. Even any lady, you see that you are in a relationship with a guy who wants to control you. You don't. Nobody wants to be controlled. You get it? And especially in a relationship, everybody wants to have a love relationship where they are willing to change. So you realize that the point is, instead of trying to change your person, rather choose an approach of learning and growing together, with this person, and understand that this person also has mistakes, has weaknesses, and just as you do, and learn and grow and mature together. And the best way you can deal with such things as well is also to just realize that you best can control your own actions, and you rather can become better and express and love this person better and do better. When you improve yourself, there's a point where this guy sees that, no man, I need to change these things for my person, because you have been this person, and you can't make a person change. Unfortunately, nobody can make a person change unless a person wants to change for themselves. We have jail systems, so many correctional measures that we have. Those things, they don't work. That's why we have repeat offenders, serial offenders. Why? Because that system doesn't work. If a person hasn't decided to change for you or for a reason, they will not change. You get it? So if you're in a relationship and you're seeing that this person is not really changing, you really have to investigate, and as you investigate, you actually see that, I think probably this is how I can address this, or probably this is a learning or a growth area that they need to grow in, and maybe exposing them to that side of growing, they can actually grow and become better. And and you see it as an opportunity to develop and grow together. And as they grow, you also grow. Everybody is happy. But I think okay, let me not talk about that as a mistake. but I think that's basically those three things. I think if ladies could know how to navigate themselves around this and direct their efforts in the correct direction, they will get relationships better. The part of not assuming that it will end in marriage, the part of understanding the role of sex in a relationship. And the only story is, God didn't say don't have sex. No. God wants people to have sex. That's why He created it.
Yeah.
But He just has a time story to say, no, not this time, but at this time. So simply just do this, and then as much, So when you look at it, you realize that if a lady just masters the sex game and masters the part of not trying to change the person and complaints, you realize that you have solved so many relationship problems that come up in so many relationships.
Before we close.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking on top of my head here.
Yeah.
So a lady who doesn't get married, or a guy who doesn't get married, is not going to have sex in their life. Simple as that.
Yes, you shouldn't.
Yeah, that's sad. Anyways, I'm not.
Sex is for married people.
It's for married people. Okay.
Sex is for husband and wife.
Yeah.
We should keep it there.
Yeah.
Because you see, we have tried to be more liberal and say, no, we're liberal. We're reasoning. Free will allow people to, and now because of that, you see, a 16-year-old boy and a 16-year-old girl, they say
And
they
no
want to have
parents.
sex. What are you going to tell them? Are you going to tell them you're too young, you can't have sex? You get it. So when you look at it, you realize that no, before marriage, there's no there's no better way of explaining it to be a correct thing.
Yeah.
As long as it's before marriage. But after marriage, we
Feel free,
people should as much.
enjoy themselves. Actually, I remember when we were doing counseling, said that in marriage, that's why you have to do it more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In marriage, you should have sex a lot. Outside of marriage, nope.
No marriage.
And when you look at it, you realize that the spiritual aspect of it, the devil himself, Satan would want people to have as much sex outside of marriage and less sex in marriage.
In marriage, yeah.
So
yeah.
for couples that are married, Satan doesn't want them to have sex. Those that are not married, oh my goodness.
They are banning.
He's sponsoring them.
He's sponsoring them. I think before we close, I'm definitely, I'm sure even the people who are listening, they can actually feel like that there's actually a lot to talk about. There's a lot. Like, we have not touched on many things. We didn't even touch the mistakes of guys.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if you were to leave either a couple or someone who wants to be in a relationship, or a young person out there, maybe to address these three groups, what is it that you can say to them just before we close?
As advice.
Yes, that advice.
Get knowledge.
Okay.
Get knowledge. That's the most important thing. I can't explain that in 2 seconds, but I'll say get knowledge.
Sure.
You see, everything that you do well in life is something that you know. Anything that you don't understand is spooky and mysterious to you. You see, Elon Musk enjoys SpaceX and going to space, and he has a goal of taking 1 million people to Mars because he understands the game. An average person, you tell them we're going to Mars, they're like, huh? What's that, going to Mars? How does it even, and all of that. But the guy understands it and enjoys it, and that's why he's successful in that area. So you realize that an area that you don't understand, you will always suffer and you don't enjoy it. But an area that you have mastered and you enjoy it. So for marriage, it's exactly the same thing. And relationships, get knowledge. The more you know, not knowledge that is, from Facebook and all of that now. Get real knowledge that's authentic, knowledge that builds. When you get that, you realize that you can literally do this relationships thing closed, with your eyes closed, and you don't even have to. It stops becoming something that you have to really struggle and try to figure out. No, you just know what to do. When you're presented with a case, you just know what to do. You know how to handle it. You know how to fix it. And so knowledge is it. If you want to be successful in relationships, in relationships, get knowledge, read books, get premarital counseling, get marriage counseling, get a coach, get a mentor, watch videos, listen to audio sermons, listen to audio CDs, DVDs. I always listen to Dr. Gary Chapman in my car. I think I've got 2 sets of DVDs, disc CDs, where he's teaching about some very exciting things. So get knowledge. That's all.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Walter Murandu.
Thank you, Shifi.
The plot, what we have planned, literally just changed.
Thank you.
But yeah, guys, this is Stega Podcast, and for those who have been listening, you heard it from Walter. He said that we should go for knowledge. It's important for us to get knowledge. It makes this work easier, and this is one of the knowledge that you can use this podcast. You can even suggest this to a couple that you know. You're like, okay, I just said some really powerful stuff, and I want to guarantee you guys that there's gonna be a next one. And I know already people will be saying that we want another one. So I'll just schedule another one very soon.
Yeah.
So we can just continue with this conversation. Yeah. And thank you very much for joining me, and welcome to Stega Podcast.
Thank you so much, Shifi. I think I'm really excited for what's ahead, as we have discussed, and excited. And I think thank you very much for welcoming me here. and the platform to speak to your viewers. And I think if they have any questions, maybe for our next sessions that they want us to address, maybe they can send them to you.
Yeah.
And then we can discuss the things and see how we can help each other. But I'm really excited and happy to be here.
Yeah, I think talking about that, I just thought about where can people get hold of you? Are you willing to be taking more clients that you can be working with and that can just talk to you directly? And I also want to find out about the title of the book, or do you want us to talk about the book when it comes out?
When it comes out, we'll
Okay, when it
talk
comes
about
out.
the book.
And then
The
contact.
Right. I think maybe you can share my email address.
Your email address, okay.
When you post, and then those that want to contact me can contact me, whether it's for premarital counseling or just relationship advice. They can just email me, and then we can take it from there.
Okay. All right. That was Walter Murandu. Mr. Walter Murandu. It's Pastor Walter Murandu. Yeah.
So many things.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, guys, have a wonderful night. Cheers.
Amazing.